All right, let's shift over to our main topic here. This is going to be a fun one. We get to use Excel spreadsheets and whatnot. What do you say, Tommy? Are you ready?
All right, now let's go get them.
All right, now we can
It's
morph.
morphin' time.
All right, to our main topic here. Of course, it's going to be MCU 2023 Retcon scores, but this is all of the movies that we reviewed here. We put the MCU in there just for SEO purposes, really drag over maybe some of those comic book fans that we were just talking about, drag them over to our podcast here. But we reviewed, how many movies did we review? How many titles do we have? 21, 20?
We ended up having 20 titles altogether. We do have some shows mixed in here, like Loki and The Last of Us. But we didn't have a whole lot in the way of shows, actually. It was and Dave season 3, I think. Secret Invasion, of course, a little forgettable, which we'll get into. That may be one that lost some points, but we'll get there.
Yeah, absolutely here. So how do we want to start? Do we want to start with our MCU stuff?
Sure. I mean, you did lay out some nice questions too that we could absolutely dig into there, but we could start with MCU if you want to.
Okay, so let's work our way down the list here for what appears to be roughly most recent to the first movie that we reviewed on the year. Most recently being the Marvels, Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and a hero to be named later. So that was episode 245 for the people who want to go back and listen to this. Not too long ago. I gave this original score of 79. You gave it an 84. Is there anything you'd like to change there?
No, I am comfortable here with this one. It's just, it feels like with some of these, and we'll get to them more, like I felt like a movement either way, and this was very clearly like, no, I'm very happy with 84, and it helps that it's most recent, probably, but still, no, I got nothing. Do you?
No, I think I'm good with this. So this is what, an 81 and a half? Is that right?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I think that's right. 81 and a half or so. And that feels like a good spot for what the Marvels is. I think it was a fun movie. It wasn't worth the hate that it got, and it also wasn't necessarily worth the overpraise. I feel like people on the other side were almost trying to balance out the hate for it by maybe being over the top, and I don't think it's neither of those things. I think it was just a fine movie.
So if you take all of what those sides were both saying, it probably brings it all to 81 and a half, which is right where we are. So we had the right grade. If you guys just listened to us and that was it, we had you covered.
Exactly. I think we're in the sweet spot right there.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll move forward or go backwards in time here with episode 244. That's Loki season 2.
Ooh, time jokes. Okay.
Oh, and with the time jokes. I didn't even realize that. But once again, we are recording in the morning, so the synapses are firing a little bit quicker. I gave it an 86. Nick, you gave it an 89. That's a CMM aggregate score of what, 87
and a half.
87 and a half. Yep. Any changes you want to make there? You feel good about that?
Nope. This is another one that I felt very comfortable with. I mean, shows are generally things that I know people can find them rewatchable. I don't. And also, so that's not factoring into my score at all here. As much as I would say I'm more inclined to watch the second season than the first season of Loki. But yeah, I felt like the level of stakes were huge. And obviously with what happens to Loki at the end of it, it was all of that was well done, and all the time stuff too, where we've seen Marvel in the past, where people are criticizing Marvel for a lot of different stuff right now. One thing that they improved upon, I think unquestionably, is how they handled time through Loki versus how they handled time in Endgame.
No, I agree. I agree with you there. And I really liked what season 2 came out with. Not as much as season 1, but I still think Loki is the premier MCU Disney Plus property to have come out so far. So I think that all of that kind of stays in line there. So 87 and a half, that's pretty good. Episode 243, 3 episodes in a row if you want to go back to during the holiday season and listen back to it. Gen V. I gave that an 81. Nick gave that an 92. Now, this is where our first change comes. I'm going to bump this up 2 points. 83. I feel like this is aged a little bit better. And since probably the Boys season 4 trailer came out, I think I'm really in on how this connects at least to maybe a B storyline in season 4 of the Boys.
Yeah, they laid a great foundation here. The ending of this was top notch. I'm really glad to see you go and bump this up a little bit. The missus actually just watched it by herself. We and The Boys is a show that we like. You is a show that we share, but with Gen V, she was like, "No, you go ahead and watch it yourself." Obviously, I had to, get it in fast because of because we weren't watching it week by week. So she wasn't ready to try and cram the whole season in, but she absolutely loved it too. So it's like this. If you like The Boys, you are going to like this show. You're going to, and also like Wes said, from a B plot standpoint, you kind of have to watch it. Probably.
Yeah, exactly. I think what my what I didn't like about the series first was just the weird power sets. I know that's kind of more of a boys thing, but that was tough for me to get behind. And I think if I just don't focus on that and focus on the actual story structure and the character development, things like that, this is a better series than what I initially thought, which was pretty good overall.
Yeah. Hey, and you know what though? That we got to in our scores, we got to factor in certain things we like, certain things we don't like. I mean, that's going to happen. You don't like
That's
those
the
power
name
sets?
of the game.
Yeah. Can't blame some people. Can't, as much as I find the blood powers interesting, can't blame me if you don't like them. Doesn't do it for
Yeah.
you.
Well, it's weird. Just to reiterate my point that I make in episode 243, it's weird that all the women have like actual disorders or like issues that then turn into the powers, but the males are just like, no, I'm all strong, I'm super fast, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like there's no real trauma attached to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
It's
I mean,
it's a weird move.
I
I think.
find that interesting, but at the same time, like I was more specifically talking. I know because I know the blood one was one that came up. Like that's
Yeah.
not going to be for everybody. It's like the Boys comic is a lot for anybody who wants to go and read that. It is on the same level of like viciousness, grotesqueness that you get from the actual show. You might even say worse, maybe.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I'd probably say worse.
Let's go to episode 234 now. Let's go back 9 episodes from Gen V. The Blue Beetle. This was a DC property, kind of an underrated DC property here. I gave it an 85. Nick gave it an 87. I could do that math. It's a CMM aggregate score of 86. Any changes that we want to make here?
No, no changes. So Blue Beetle. No, sorry, I was trying to do some math for us over here, and I realized I screwed up. But no, I got nothing. No changes on Blue Beetle at an 87 for me. Like it was a fun time. And this is again one that surprised the both of us. I think we went into it like, okay, we don't care about Blue Beetle, but like, I mean, I'll see it because I want to support comic book movies. And obviously we do it on the show, so we move forward, even though the DC is like kind of in a weird spot. I mean, it'd be a shame if they didn't keep this whole family as they progress forward with things.
Yeah, and I know I saw we'll be talking about this guy a little bit further down the list, but Zachary Levi was pretty pissed at James Gunn and Sean Gunn for, Sean Gunn, I think having now 2 roles in the DC. He's playing.
Yeah, they updated it, and he's like sticking. I think it's like he was Weasel, I think, in Suicide Squad, and now he's going to be whoever
Pedro Pascal was in
Yes.
Wonder Woman 84, right?
Yes,
Max something. Max
Yes.
something.
Yep, I'm blanking on his name. Yes.
But yeah, so he's saying, oh, I guess if you can be the brother of a director, then you can get into anything. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's life. But I would like to see the Blue Beetle incorporated into the new DC in some way. I thought this was a good movie. I don't think it was a great movie. And I thought about maybe bumping this down a little bit. I'm still kind of on the fence about it because I'm not sure if. No. Okay, no, I'm good with this. I'm just looking down at the list here. This might be the best DC movie of the year, pound for pound.
Yeah, no, I think it based on just our scoring alone, it was unquestionably. Yeah, because we have 2 others that we'll get to. One fairly soon. Yeah, but no, this was
good.
Kind
of a boilerplate origin story movie that doesn't do anything necessarily new, but it does it all well.
Yeah, exactly. It was. I felt like at least it. Yeah, it was as much as it was that it felt like it was different in the ways that it needed to be. And I honestly think like when people are making these kind of, if they continue to make these kind of boilerplate origin stories going forward, there's stuff to be learned from Blue Beetle where the improvements were made. I don't think you necessarily need to do that all the time. We've talked about it for ages about how you don't need that stuff. We've gotten enough of those, but at the same time, I'm sure they're going to still keep doing them. So something to be learned here.
Yeah, and I think for your lesser known heroes, your Blue Beetles, I think having the origin story and the background of how they get their powers is great. But like for Spider-Man or even Daredevil, something like that where you have it's more of an established fan base, and more of the general population knows about Daredevil, Spider-Man, whoever. Maybe you can bypass the origin stories on that and just kind of hop into a story.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, let's go to episode 231 now. That's Secret Invasion.
Mm.
Disney MCU Disney Plus show here. I gave this an 81. You gave it an 80. And we both have updates on this one here, Nick. What's your reasoning for going up or down?
Yeah, so I went down a point because this is, look, I mean, there's no two ways about it. Like when you go from a B to a C, it's just like from an A to a B. There's difference. There's different feeling towards that grade, towards that class, and in this case, this show, it was fine, but I think I think that similar to what we talked about with the Marvels, where a lot of people wanted to shit all over it. I don't think it was that bad, but it wasn't the
Mhm.
greatest thing ever.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
I think for me that like extra giving that the 80 was like just that step too far where it's like, no, it's not in that category quite yet. And also like when I look at some of the other stuff that we talk about over the year, that like considering our grades, like I think that's why it's so great that we do this, because now it's all boom right in front of us. And it's like, okay, I cared about it. How did I care about it that time? And then I look at some other movies that when we're watching a movie or when I'm giving a grade, I don't consider all the other ones. By and large, I try not to do that, like what I've given for grades. But when I
Mhm.
see it all laid out here, it's like, nah, like this isn't. It's just that slight tick below for me, and I feel like you feel pretty similarly.
Yeah, exactly. So I dropped this down as well from an 81, dropped it 3 points to 78. And it's like you said, like there were some things I really liked. I really liked Gravik. I liked some of the intrigue behind this political spy thriller, archetyped or kind of a foundation that was laid for this series, but it just didn't fully come through on that for me,
Yeah,
So I think that's where some of it gets lost for me. Also, it's not really Secret Invasion. They're just kind of like slap the name on it, and it's not really an adaptation of the comic book story.
yeah,
Um, but it does use the scrolls there, so that's where I feel like they got like, all right, we can use this. But what it really loses points, you mentioned the Marvels in your response there, is that, all right, if these things are going to connect, and we accept that this is what the MCU is that it's going to lead into the next thing that leads into the next thing that leads into the next thing. Watching the Marvels and seeing a completely different Nick Fury from the Marvels to Secret Invasion, when in theory this is all kind of happening at the same time, leading into one another, um, is just completely egregious.
yeah. That was I didn't like that was like when we look back at the Marvels, like that's a thing that we talked about for sure. Like that was not okay. Like this Fury was very interesting, and to go and just I
Yeah,
don't know.
completely undo it, or like there's no conversation. I mean, for all the shit that Sam Raimi got for being like, I never watched WandaVision and not being able to connect the dots here, like there should be equal amount of
Yeah,
blame going around to the Secret Invasion creator and the Marvels creator for like not having that collaboration, or Kevin Feige, whoever the brass tacks falls to. I don't know if that's a phrase, but you know what I mean.
yeah. I don't know who it is in this instance, but it does. It's just. I mean, also, it's like did Samuel. I know Samuel L. Jackson's been doing it for so long and everything, but I'm curious what his thoughts are, because it's like, did you feel strange? Like, how did this happen where he just goes from one end of the spectrum to the other? Like, if that's just the way he is in the Marvels is just the way if that's what he devolved into, like if there was like a clear line, maybe some people wouldn't like it, but at least it would make sense. With
Right.
these two, it's just like how.
Yeah, it's like they completely forgot about it or didn't care to include it in there, right?
Yeah,
If at least, like you said, you make an attempt at it, like okay, then at least they tried. But this
yeah.
feels like they didn't try to it. So a 78 and a 79, so new aggregate score, going down to 2 points from 80 and a half to 78 and a half.
Yes, I have all the aggregate scores updated now, so we're good. Took me a second
Oh,
there.
oh, beautiful there. I love
Hashtag
it.
math. Yeah.
There we go.
Mm.
Not our strong suit here. All right,
Nope.
let's go backwards one episode for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. This is episode 230 for those who might want to go back and listen to it. I gave it an 83. Nick gave it an 85. Any
Mhm.
changes that you want to make here, up or down, good or bad?
No, and this is one that so short answer, no. I thought about this one more than maybe any other
I
than
gave
maybe
this some thought too. Yeah.
yeah, because it was just like well, part of why I ended up not doing it, or maybe the driving force is I joke about Mission Impossible being like a bunch of bullshit. Like it's like okay, like it's mission highly improbable because they get
Yeah.
it done every fucking time. And this time around, it's like no, like there's a lot of shit that goes sideways. I felt like and again the appreciation for Cruise and his live stunts, uh,
Yeah,
and
for
then like
sure.
obviously it's like an important character, biting the dust and everything. There's just a lot that goes on in this. So yeah, I am very comfortable leaving it at an 85.
Yeah, and I think 83, 85,
Yeah.
an 84 aggregate score there. I think that's a good spot for this. Kind of like
Mhm.
where we're at with the Marvels aggregate score there. I think this was this is definitely disappointed. I think in box office too, kind of excuse me, dealing with the Barbenheimer box office at the same time. There's
Yeah.
a little bit of fallout from that.
That's tough.
But I think this was a decent movie, and I think this again just was tough to live up to based on Barbenheimer and based on the hype off of Top Gun 2.
Yeah, no, this is very true. Top Gun was definitely. I mean, if you go back and listen to that, like it's definitely the superior movie. It's not even close. But at the same time, like, yeah, I agree with you. Like, I agree with our scores. Like it being at an 84, right down the middle between the two of us is perfect. But I think I agree. Box office wise, like it's just tough timing with Barbie and Oppenheimer coming out at that same time, man.
And I think I may I'm not remembering this completely, but the villain is the entity, right? It's an AI.
Yeah.
So, it's like kind of a nebulous idea too. I remember thinking when I watched the movie, like, you don't really see a physical enemy. It's just like someone that's kind of living in the internet, kind of, and like
Hmm.
they're taking over and hijacking all these like government infrastructures and stuff like that. So it's like you don't really have anywhere to direct, who am I rooting? Who am I doing this against? You know what I mean?
Oh, you're barking up the wrong tree there. I got no problem rooting
No,
against
no, no. I know
AI.
it's AI, but AI is not like a real thing. Also, it's not like a living, breathing entity.
Yet.
Well,
It's
yeah.
Terminator.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be living and breathing. They would just be like operating.
This is also true. And you know what? I appreciate that. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
they're just existing.
Yeah.
So it's like, they're a great. They always quote, "It's always sunny." It's like, yes, but who are we doing this against? Who's this versus? Like, and I just need to know going into it so my head's right. So that one kind of throws me off a little bit there. But I think the 84 is a good spot for that movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's go back 4 episodes to episode 226 for maybe the most controversial movie of the year,
Hmm.
The Flash.
Yeah. So we both came in. Actually, this had the same grading as Mission Impossible, except our scores were
Just flipped. Yep.
we're still on flip sides of the spectrum here, but I went all the way down to an 80 on this after giving it an 83 originally. So this is minus 3 points for me, which I have another one that loses that much and a couple that lose more. But to me, it's like, okay, there was, again, it's, I'd be like, I know we have to have Twitter because of work, and obviously
Hmm.
getting, doing other stuff, but it's just like, I wonder if we weren't as privy to all these like the hype that surrounds all these movies, and we just like were in our own little world and didn't have social media. It's like, oh, the Flash is coming out, awesome, and then we just see some trailers. How we would perceive these movies.
Yeah.
I feel like you and I do a fairly decent job of putting that aside, but at the same time, it's like we're only human. Like you're hearing so much of this stuff,
Right.
and I think my natural reaction sometimes is to maybe be a little bit more on the positive side with that. As much as I had the lower score of the two of us here, but it's like, again, you hear it's the greatest comic book movie of all time, and it's like, okay, that's
Yeah.
not true. And then everybody
You
wants
know,
to tear it to shreds, and it's like, okay, but it's not that bad. I feel very comfortable like this being an 80, just 1 point above Secret Invasion.
yeah. So you knocked this down 3 points. I knocked this down 2 points from an 85 to an 83. So this is what aggregate score of 81.
And a half.
81 and a half there. Thank you. Thank you for
Mhm.
that. Yeah, so this is going down 2 points for me here. And again, it's the overall stakes of a a connected I guess a connected story. It's
Mhm.
like not really there anymore. It's not going to be adapted into the James Gunn's world. And that was kind of floated around as well as like right around the same time that everyone was calling this the best comic book movie ever. Now, to its credit, I think it's a fun action movie. I think it's a fun summer action movie. There's a lot of cool things, specifically highlighted by Michael Keaton's Batman.
Yeah.
Uh, Sasha Calle was great as Supergirl, but she's not going to be carried over. They look like they're going to be casting that a new actress for that for Superman Legacy. So this movie was really dead in the water from the get go, which was again another one of the big talking points leading into the movie. But to have it be so poorly received, like it was, like specifically from a box office standpoint, not necessarily a
Yeah.
critic standpoint, that was the most shocking thing. But I've went back and rewatched this specifically for that Russia scene where they break Sasha Calle out,
Mm,
and that whole fight. I think it's in Russia there. That
I think
goes
so.
on. So like that's there is some rewatchability to this.
Yeah. I agree.
More so than maybe some of the other movies. Like I haven't watched Blue Beetle since that's been on Max yet, but
Mhm.
so there is something that will still draw me to it. But again, expectations versus what we actually get is a huge factor in this for me.
Yeah, and I think it's like, I mean, they did the strength. Some of the strengths of this are they did a good job with Batman, obviously because you have Michael Keaton, and then Supergirl was good. So I was like, okay, hey, we have a
Mhm.
soup, like a super family like character that they did a good job with, and then you have a good Batman. I mean, to me, how do you not go back and watch that a little bit? So I agree, there is a level of rewatchability. It makes it it's like a cheat code, I guess. Is my thought.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly there. Okay, so we have one episode back here, Dave, season 3. That's episode 225.
Mhm.
I gave this an 87. You gave this an 87. I can do that math. That's an 87 aggregate score there.
Ooh.
No changes made to this. This was a pretty solid season.
Yes.
What stands out to me, it feels like they got back to what was successful in season 1 there, where season 2 felt more like everyone being an individual. And then season 3 was like the gang's back together and they're doing things as a group now. The
Yes.
things that you got Brad Pitt in the season finale, which I loved. I thought that was a great cameo. And then you have him going back to Philly, dealing with like his first girlfriend for like a music video, all this cool thing. He's looking for love. He's got the photographer girl that he's fallen head over heels with, but he's also dealing with Rachel McAdams, who's another great cameo in this. So that's what I think of with Dave, almost like a Curb Your Enthusiasm for this generation type of thing, where there's real actors playing themselves in this world, but they're just maybe slightly exaggerated or a little bit different than who they normally are.
And at the center of all this, Dave's death was faked.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I was like second guessing myself on that at first, but then you brought up the photographer, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Nope, that happened in this season, and I really enjoyed their relationship, and obviously it goes in a
Hmm.
lot of different directions with those two. But yeah, I right there with you, 87, and looking back on it, it's like no, this was unquestionably a great season of this show, and coming off it, I hope that they obviously can't be the same exact stuff going forward that would do that, but like the same energy, or like when you talk about the heart of the show,
Yeah.
like that they had that here. And as much as I appreciated like how things kind of devolved in some ways in season 2, and it's so chaotic, and I thought like after coming up together, it makes sense to have this like disjointedness going down, and how ridiculous and how obviously bizarre Dave can be. I did appreciate that, but I thought this was like this is the season that I loved the most. I don't know if I say the most. I don't remember what I gave season 2 for a score, but I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I agree. This is challenging season one for my favorite season there, and I think one of the moments that just popped in my mind here, unfortunately, when you were just talking, was him slinging the sex doll legs. It's like half the sex doll body, and he's like slinging it over his shoulder, or he's like dragging it out of his room to another room. That scene just is burned into my memory. Unfortunately, they're very funny.
It's all coming
Uh,
back. Honestly, when I thought about it, I was like, no, I like Dave. I have nothing. I have no grades. But now you're bringing it all up. It's like so many other things are starting to like flood back into my head. Like when it started, right in the season where he's like met up with this girl who's like supposedly never heard of him, and then it's like, no,
yeah,
she's
yeah,
lying.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he's wearing the full body condom.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that part. Oh God, yeah. Poor
That's
guy.
great. That's great
That's rough.
stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back another episode here to 224. Spider-Man Across the Universe. I gave this a 95 originally. Nick, you gave this a 97. That's a 96 aggregate score. I bumped this up one for the sole fact that I want this to break the tie that I have for the best movie of the year, or the best thing I watched all year.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fair. Yeah.
So
No,
there's no real notes to it other than I really enjoyed this. This is available. Wait, is it on Netflix now?
I think it's on Netflix now. Yeah,
Yeah.
Netflix is getting flooded with quite a bit of stuff. I wonder if that's a
Hmm.
little foreshadowing of what may be to come. Because I wouldn't hate it.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, put it all in one freaking place, please.
But no notes. Bring me part two as soon as you can, or as soon as the graphic designers finish everything without being overworked and stressed out. But I can't wait for that. So no notes here. I just wanted to break the tie. That's why I wanted to go up. It's a great movie.
Fair. Yeah, I love Across the Spider-Verse. The art in it too, to me, like where the animation was next level for animation in general in the first movie, Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, like kept some of that, but then also progressed it forward by giving all these characters their own animation style in like changing the setting around them if we go to their world. It was just I absolutely loved it. And I know we got a little bit of that again in the first one, but it's like it was next level with Gwen, and then next level with like Spider Punk as well too. So
Yeah.
just awesome fun time. Gotta rewatch
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I haven't done
All great stuff. Yeah, I will be looking forward to rewatching that soon too. Let's go back 2 episodes in time here for a movie that we almost didn't review, but I'm happy that we did.
it. Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. So I gave this an 87. Nick gave that an 89. That's a CMM aggregate score of 88. Again, no changes here, but a very solid movie.
Yeah, and this a note for because I got nothing really to add other than that this movie did surprise me. I didn't think I was going to care about it, but was a fun time, and obviously you and I feel very similarly about it. But what I want to add is for those who like this show and then also like and have no problem with animation, because I'm sure there are some listeners who just aren't fans of animation. If
Mhm.
you like animation, go check out Vox Machina on Amazon Prime. A listener of the DSG recommended it to me, and there's 2 seasons of that show. I think it's 12 episodes a pop. I think they're 30 minutes a piece, maybe a little bit more. I'm not certain on that, but I absolutely loved it. I absolutely crushed that show, and it's in like the same type of world, like a high fantasy stuff, and a lot of hijinks, a lot of comedy,
Mhm.
quite a bit of violence. I highly, if you like this, you will like that.
Yeah, this was a fun time. Again, we talked about so much this year. I feel like when we were also discussing Dave's season 3, but we just liked having the gang together.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
we just like having a good group who like kind of all operates within itself pretty well. And that's what Dungeons and Dragons was. I thought it was a good cast that all kind of played off each other very well. Some were serious, some were nerdy, some were the stars, like that works for me. If this were to get a sequel, I would be happy. I would go see that again.
Kind of stunned if it didn't. I don't know how it did box office wise, but I mean,
I don't think it killed it, but I don't think it did bad either.
okay. Well, then maybe not, but
Yeah,
yeah.
so maybe it broke even.
Hmm.
How's that there? We had going back another episode to 221, The Pope's Exorcist. No changes there. Nick gave that an 84. I gave it an 80. That's starring Russell Crowe. CMM aggregate score of 82. I'm not sure if there's much to say about it. This
I
was an
changed
okay
it.
movie.
I
Oh, you
changed it.
did change it. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I didn't
I
see
changed.
that.
I changed it to an 81, so it's down to an 80.5.
Gotcha. I got to
Yeah,
scroll over on the Excel sheet there.
yeah, there's a whole lot going on there. It's hard. It sucks because like the titles are so long, so it makes me force everything over.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I bumped this down 3 points because I was like, when I first thought about it, I was like, didn't this have kind of like a clunky ending, like visually and everything and whatnot? And then I went back and looked at my notes from when we talked about this for episode 221, and it confirmed my suspicion. So I was like, nah, I got to take this down a couple points to an 81. Still really enjoyed it. Still like an 81 for a horror movie. Like I'm going to take that all day. I probably will go back and rewatch this. And this was streaming original, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
So,
so. I think this was Amazon. I think this was in theaters, but it was a day and date
oh,
release sort of thing. I think that's what it
oh,
was.
well, I would love to see more of this. I think there's a lot of
Hmm.
potential. I think Russell Crowe did a great job. And look, I took off 3 extra points for the ending. It wasn't necessarily because of the writing of the ending. It was because of the visuals that came with the ending. It was
I think I
rough.
remember that now.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it
Yeah,
was rough.
they definitely got low in the budget by the end. They're like, all right, we just got to hit the finish line here.
Yeah. So I mean, like so now you and I are pretty much on the exact same level here. But I think that if that had been cleaned up from a technological standpoint, visual standpoint, however you want to put it, that definitely I feel comfortable at an 84, and I probably would have had it higher than that. Even I thought this was well done. It has potential for the future.
All right. We go to episode 220 now for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Talk about just having fun hanging around a team. This is another
Hmm.
instance of that there. I gave this a 91. Nick gave that a 93. That's a 92 aggregate score here. Nick, it doesn't look like you have any changes, but I'm
You
bumping
do.
this down a little bit here. I'm bumping it down 3 points to an 88, which is still that's still pretty good. It's still ahead of Guardians Volume 2 for me, but behind Volume 1. And my reasoning is I went back to try to rewatch this and I couldn't finish the rewatch. I shut it off.
Oh
It's just so
wow.
it's so sad. I
Yep.
couldn't get through the beginning. It's a very depressing ending there. So you lose a little bit points there for rewatchability, which I think is huge from a Marvel standpoint. You want to be able to rewatch all of these movies and have fun with them. And if I can't necessarily do that, I remember saying that during our original review that like I'm not sure that this is going to be very rewatchable for us. But I think the first time through it was satisfying and it was nice to see and to kind of get a little bit of that Rockets backstory there. And, you're dealing with the fallout of so much death and kind of bringing the team back together sort of thing. I thought that was all interesting to see. But again, second time around, I don't think it has the same feel to me.
I gotta go back and rewatch. I haven't done it yet, but I haven't rewatched a ton of stuff this year. Quite honestly, that came out this year, I should say.
Hmm.
But like I remember that being a thing, not only with you, but talking to other people. It's like this, like it's a lot darker and a lot sadder than any of the other stuff. But I honestly thought obviously you're giving it an 88, you still liked it, but
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
you pushed all the right buttons and I'm very curious how I feel going back and rewatch this. But I agree with you 100% that like where we talk about like the Flash where it has like rewatchability, it's like you can just be whatever. It's like, oh yeah, I see this, I'll turn it on or I'll watch it, whatever. Like if we're still in channel surfing, like okay, like you see it, whatever. This is like, no, if you're gonna watch this, you gotta lock in, you gotta make sure you're in the right frame of mind. It's not that easy.
And I think now that I'm kind of jogging my memory here, I love the High Evolutionary. I thought he was a great
Yeah.
villain, and the actor did a great job in portraying him. But I think what makes him so great is that he's like the master chess player. He's moving all the pieces on the board, he's moving the pawns and everything like that. But he didn't really seem like a fighter. And at the end, they had him fight, which I thought kind of lost points. I think he should have had other
Oh.
people doing his bidding for him, and then finally just like I don't know, relinquishing his power, begging for his power. So you see that dynamic kind of flip a little bit. But you see him fight, and that kind of took me out of it a little bit.
Interesting. Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, just a minor stuff here. Still really
Mm,
good overall.
Still.
Um, One movie we did not like. This might be the worst reviewed movie of the year. Power Rangers Once and Always. This is episode 218. If you want to go back and listen, or skip over specifically if you know that. Like, maybe we don't listen to this one. Because I gave it a 50. Nick gave it a 65. What's the aggregate score there?
57.5.
57.5. Yeah, not good, but no changes though. So
no, I mean, I thought like, because at the end of it all, you guys will see with math, like I had room to go and be like, yeah, I'll just take points off. But I was like, I don't want to, like, ultimately this movie, we wanted a thing, and I don't say this often, like probably should have gotten that thing, but this was what Power Rangers was back when we were kids. And unfortunately, like, we wanted to take like another step because like we're older, we have so much time to like now see it. You're trying to appeal to an adult audience, one would think now too. So it's just trying to make upgrades where we can, and it didn't happen. So like that's why I ended up at like not as far down as you, but at the same time, like like I've never felt like we're so close on this, even though our score is so apart.
Yeah, exactly. Well, once you get below a 75, I think it's all just kind of bad. And just how bad do you want it to be?
75 is breaking point. I think
for us, right? I feel like that's if we go back and look at all of our grades, I think 75 is like kind of that threshold.
That's probably right, because I'm just like 70 is like where I'm just wondering, like maybe it's fine, but like but still no, 75 is fair. Yeah, 100%. If I got a 75,
somewhere low 70s, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And this is too bad because, like you said, this was almost exactly a spitting image of what we grew up with, right? It's pretty close to it. The only problem was we grew up and our sensibilities changed, and it's like, oh man, this really was crap the whole time.
Yeah, and I think the difference too, like a big difference at least, what helped like in, I don't know, what differentiated our scoring was like I did a few years back try and go back and rewatch some of it, and I was like, oh yeah, no, like I'm always gonna love it, and again, like I read the comics and they're fucking great. Like the comics are doing, the Power Rangers comics are doing what you wanted this show to do. So again, like if you've like, that's a great place to go. And if you're not reading comics, go check out the start of Kyle Higgins' run from a few years ago. If you need help with that, you can always find me on Twitter and I can help out with it. But it's like he did such a great job, and everybody who's followed after him has done an outstanding job of elevating the characters, giving quality writing, giving all that great action. And it's just that perfect combination of nostalgia and moving things forward in a positive way.
All right, moving forward, maybe not in a positive way, but we're moving forward nonetheless here with episode 217, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. We mentioned this a little bit earlier. I gave this a 76. Nick gave it an 84. It's an aggregate score of 79. Any changes that you want to make here?
Well, now it's down to...
now it's 79. It was 82 before?
Did I mess that up? No, I messed it up before. No, I made... I didn't get all the math, Wes.
Oh, my bad.
Nope, that is quite the opposite.
I'm just reading numbers on the screen here without any context.
If you got the right numbers, then it would help. But now it was a 79, or am I don't know. You know what? You figure that one out for me while I talk this through. So I had this at an 84 and I bumped it down to an 82. It was again another one that caught a lot of heat, which I know it's partially because of off the field issues with Zachary Levi, who's still kind of, that seems to be just brushing up against DC in a not, I guess, ideal way. But yeah, I still had fun with it. Like I went in thinking, oh, this is not going to be great. Like Lady Helen Mirren was like, I don't know what was going on in this movie. Which,
yeah, that's right.
When you watch it, it's like, no, you did. Like if you didn't, you just didn't want to be there. It's pretty clear what the story is, and it was like a fun time. Like so, it was, to me, it was solid. It wasn't as good. It felt like in some ways it was very similar to the first one outside of the origin. But it's like it didn't progress it forward.
Yeah. No,
so
I'm with you on that. This was, again, a little bit dead in the water. This didn't get good publicity going into it. A lot of people turned on Zachary Levi, and I forget why.
It is
not exactly sure why, but he kind of became like kind of turned from like a belovable bastion of DC and kind of really pushing it and like really like, oh, one of the bright spots moving forward to like being hated pretty quickly. And I forget why. Maybe it's COVID related. Maybe it's like politically related. But
I think it was the former of the two. And by the way, it's a 70. It was a 79. The math was correct. I just the
yeah.
slight change bumped it from an 80 to a
80 to a
79.
79. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So we're all set there. But yeah, people soured on him pretty quickly. And I don't think that bode well for his hopes of maybe
mhm,
getting carried over into the James Gunn's DC. So
I agree.
yeah, that's too bad there. And of course, who I thought she was pretty good in this, Rachel Zegler. She also kind of took a bit of a PR hit, after this movie came out here. So I wonder if that was, if they're like, all right, the star and the co-star here aren't really high up in the Q rating. Let's just completely scrap this.
Rachel. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, during the strike, during the actors strike, she kept, she just kind of shit on the Cinderella movie, like the original Cinderella movie, which seems
Oh,
like an odd thing to do when you're promoting like your new Cinderella movie. I don't know. It's
okay.
just that seems odd to me, but
Um, but yeah, so in the end, like when it comes to like the product that we got, I mean, I still feel comfortable this being in a. I guess it went from a B to a B minus for me.
mhm.
But this being in that 79, 80 range again, like I know we talked about like the difference between a C plus and a B minus is like there's a significant difference as much as it's 1 point. I actually think this should be on the 80 side of things, but I'm not gonna lose sleep over it being a 79.
Yeah. I think that they had a villain problem. And like you said, there wasn't really much graduation to the next step from the original movie.
Yeah.
Um, go back one episode here to episode 216. This might be one of the better movies that we saw in the year.
Oh yeah.
The Super Mario Brothers movie. This was something that kind of lived up to the hype here. I gave it a 91. You gave it an 88. That's a 90 and a half.
Yeah. Oh, or is it 89.5?
89 and a half. There we go.
But that's no longer the score because
No, it's not.
I bumped it up 4 points. So I had two things that I changed by 4 points. This is the only one that I bumped up by 4 points. So biggest growth for me, the Super Mario Brothers movie. It was so much fun. I don't know why I gave it an 88 at the time. I didn't go back and check my notes, but I remember like now I'm seeing. I think that's on Netflix too, and I'm just like,
Oh wow.
man,
Okay.
I got to go back and watch this. This was so much fun. Everything about it was enjoyable, and I mean, like from a visual standpoint and everything, it was great. So it's like I don't remember. Again, I don't remember why I gave it an 88. I feel like I don't know, trying to be too much of a hard ass that day. But definitely, like you had it at 91. You were right. I know I won't point past you, but like again, we're in the same spot now. It's a 91.5. That it deserves to be there, if not better.
A lot of fun here. Jack Black as Bowser was great.
Yeah.
When you get the Peaches song there, that's kind of a real rewatchable, standout, memeable moment from that movie. And it's a lot of fun. For anyone who grew up watching or playing those video games or any one of those video games, you kind of get everything serviced to you, right? You got a little bit of Mario Party, you get a little bit of Mario Kart, you got Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3. Everything's kind of represented in there, right?
Everything.
And although the story, like I'm not following along for a story here, I'm not grading this on the same scale as Oppenheimer or something. You know what I mean? Like this is like comes in with different level of expectations. It's good animation, it's fun, it's family fun. I don't really care if it's a cohesive story.
I think that the thing for me is where it's like when we talk about I don't talk about this as much in our conversations, but like the pacing of the story, and in this case specifically, the beats of the story. Sometimes the beats of a movie can feel like okay, we're in arc, part one of the arc, and then part two, and then we get to three, and then we go from there. Or maybe you boil it down to six. But either way, like when I can feel that, it bothers me usually because it's just like it feels like things are getting a little too formulaic. I think that was kind of at play in this movie. Again, I got to go back and rewatch it, but at the same time, to what you're saying, I don't care. Like it's fun.
Mhm.
Like it maybe the lines may be clear there, but I was having fun the whole time. I was never like, oh, okay, like that was not happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Here now, something where we might critique this a little bit more for the storyline. And that really paid out was The Last of Us, episode 213 in our archives there, HBO Max show. I gave this a 95. You gave this a 93. No changes here.
Yeah,
No changes.
this was actually when I had to go back and uh, check the audio real quick on the grading, because I think at the time we didn't do our normal tweet length review. But this is, I mean, this is one of the best things we got all year. We're all dying for more of it. I think when you look at it at the end, we have 4 properties that we reviewed that ended up in the A range, and this is at number 2. Overall and in that grouping. But yeah, this is like no question for me. This, you know what? If you these all came out in close proximity of each other, the Super Mario Brothers, The Last of Us, and then the next one that we're going to talk about. If you just stopped watching shit after the Super Mario Brothers, you're like, oh, 2023 was a perfect year, flawless year. You had those 3 things. Amazing.
Yeah, and then Cocaine Bear. Those are all like back to back weeks, pretty much. So
yeah, but it was good. Like, obviously, it was outstanding. Like, I mean, it's like, I feel the same way about it as I did before, and I can't wait to. I'm never gonna play the video game, more than likely, and that's fine. Like, I'm ready to experience all of it. And people who didn't play it are loving it. People who did play it are loving it. What's not to be happy about here?
Yeah, exactly there. Let's go back 2 episodes in the archives to episode 211, Creed 3. I gave this a 94. You gave this a 92, Nick. No changes here.
Nope.
This is pretty good. And at the time, we thought this was going to be the year of Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
And it kind of is in some ways.
Not in the way that he wanted it to, and not the way that we all thought it was.
He's staying in the news cycle, though.
That is for sure, which flies in the face of what we said earlier about all news and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, regardless, I'm not changing the grade here. That was he. I mean, he did an outstanding job, and he's the reason why the movie was as good as it was.
Yeah, it's and I would have to go back and rewatch this. I believe this is available on Max, if I had to guess. But I would go back and rewatch it to see if it still holds up. I enjoyed it. I think I had one of the better boxing fights to end a movie. The final fight scene between him and Jonathan Majors there, I thought was really cool. Definitely having some anime elements there, some slow motion elements.
Yeah.
So some pretty cool stuff. And then, Jonathan Majors plays that kind of like conniving friend villain really well.
Yeah.
Where he's like he's got ulterior motives, and that something's kind of brewing, but you're not really sure either.
Yeah, like it was like the way the character was written was great, but then he takes it to another, like his performance is why it lands so well. And also to the end of what you were bringing up before about like where to watch it, whoever has MGM Plus, it's available there, but it's also available on Amazon apparently. But more importantly, it's on Amazon Prime.
Okay. All right, great. And so you make a little gambling, play a little video poker, and then watch Creed 3 all on the app.
I don't know if it's I don't think MGM Plus and BetMGM are the same thing.
Oh, maybe they should just morph it all in together. Why not? Maybe you should.
You saying that, I'm like, that's actually a crazy good idea.
So crazy it might just work.
Yeah.
Let's go backwards to episode 210, which is, you could probably say this about this movie. It's so crazy, it just might work. The aforementioned Cocaine Bear.
Yeah.
Nick gave this an 85, or I gave this an 85. Nick gave this a 79. This is my biggest drop of the year. I am dropping the 6 points. I think I might have been on cocaine when I watched this because I'm not sure what I was thinking, giving it an 85. It was a fun movie. I remember having a good time with it.
Yeah.
However, it's just, I'm never going to go watch this movie again.
Yeah. I think it, as much as I agree with that, I don't have this burning desire, and I have, again, the same score as you, so it's an aggregate score of 79. I don't have this burning desire to go watch it. I do think it falls in that realm of like, yeah, it's self-contained, it's crazy, wild time. Like, yeah, there's a very basic plot at play here. It has like a level of rewatchability in terms of like the ability. It's very easy to go back and engage it, but at the same time, I'm not like, oh, I'm with you. Like, I have no desire to like watch Cocaine Bear again, but I'm glad I did. It was fun, and it was like, it's going to lead to more stuff like that, apparently.
I think you're right. I think I saw something already about that, right? Something about a shark? No.
I thought
raccoon?
Yeah, well, didn't we get Isn't that why James Gunn did that with Guardians? No? Okay, never mind.
Oh, there we
Sorry.
go.
No, he
Oh,
actually
I see what you did there.
I think he was I saw somewhere, and I may be speaking out of school here, but I thought I saw that he was up for, like, PETA Person of the Year because of what he did with Guardians.
That wouldn't surprise me. Peter's crazy.
Yes, they are.
Peter is crazy.
I'm surprised we didn't hear more about them with Cocaine Bear, quite honestly, but
That's a good point. That's a
yeah.
good point there. Let's go backwards. We only got 2 movies left here to episode 209. Maybe one of the more disappointing movies of the year. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I gave
More
this
animal
an
talk.
82. You gave this an 89.
Mhm.
That was an original aggregate score of what, 84 and a
Uh,
half?
I'm gonna take your word on that one.
83 and a half?
Yes, but this definitely need to get bumped down by both of us.
Yeah, so this was bumped down to me to a 79. Take it down 3 points. And where do you got this, Nick?
Yeah, I bumped it down 4 points. I'm still higher, but
Mhm.
85. So this ends up getting the most significant drop between the two of us. When you combine our scores together to bring it down to it's 82, which as much as again we're talking like B to B minus in terms of difference between my score and our combined score, I do feel comfortable with that. I liked this movie I liked. There's a lot of different things about this movie that I liked, but at the same time I can't. Again, this is where we see all this stuff on social media. I can't help but think, yeah, it is kind of weird that like Ant-Man's the guy that stopped Kang. Like I know that we have
Right.
Janet, who's like evolved in ways and everything, and spent and knows Kang, and that's obviously a huge thing. But I can't help but like that is kind of funny that like that's the guy who takes him down. Like no disrespect to Ant-Man, but also a little disrespect to Ant-Man.
Yeah, exactly. A little disrespect to Ant-Man there. The CGI was just not good. Not living up to it for what should have been a CGI heavy movie. So going into it that it's going to be a huge emphasis when you got a title like Quantum Mania. That you're going to be spending a lot of time in front of like a blue and green screen there.
Hmm.
Just didn't pass the sniff test there on that. You mentioned Janet Van Dyne and Michelle Pfeiffer's character. Just an all-time frustrating character in a movie there. She knows everything, but it's like, I don't know. I can't tell you. You have to guess. I can't, well, no, I don't want to talk about it. I'm not ready to talk about it yet. And then if she had just like been open with them from the get-go about everything, they would be able to figure this out and maybe solve this problem or not have this problem to begin with.
I think another thing for me in this is when we talk about rewatchability, Ant-Man has had that in his movies.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not saying
Yes.
like we
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have like one movie to the next shouldn't be the same. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm still very high on that, even though the rewatchability is not the same in the sense of like it's not easy to go back and re-engage with. This it doesn't have that re-engage like level to it, and then it also is something where I'm like I want to go back and check this out. Like Guardians is at least like self-contained in like its own space where it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Quantum Mania is supposed to have these high stakes and everything, and then it's like I mean there you get some of it, but then it's just like but you don't really. So this was one where it was a little bit tougher for me than other Marvel properties, I would say,
Yeah,
because I still am high on it.
and we thought this was going to be in the realm of like a Civil War type movie or even like a multiverse of madness to the extent of that was going to be the next big
Yeah.
thing to kind of push along the greater MCU storyline. And it did with Kang in a sense, but I don't think to the degree or level that we were hoping for.
No, I think it's a pretty fair assessment. So, and this is
The
why I don't mind weighing that against it here.
Yeah, exactly. Expectations versus reality. It's a real thing. It's like
Hmm.
inertia, Someone's got to come out some way or the other. The Pale Blue Eye, the first movie that we reviewed on the year, that was a
Yeah.
Netflix movie starring Christian Bale. Go back in our archives, episode 204. I gave this an 83. You gave this an 85 originally. That's an original CMM aggregate score of 84. But you're going up here, ending on a high note.
Yes, and on a high note here at the start of the year, so I'm giving this an 83 because when I went and again put this list together, like these are all the things that we reviewed for the first time. It's like, oh yeah, Pale Blue Eye. Like I I kind of want to go back and watch that again. I'm like I'm itching, like the atmosphere around it and everything. And as much
Yeah.
as this
Hmm.
whole thing has a huge twist at the end, I said it at the time. It'll be interesting to go back and look at this knowing that twist. So I think this has a
Yeah.
massive level. Like now, rewatchability to a point. I think the second time around, it absolutely has like a massive level of rewatchability because it's like a whole new experience.
Yeah, the same way of Fight Club or The Usual
Yes.
Suspects or something like that, right? Yeah, absolutely.
But to then after that, like a third time, I don't know. Like I think you won't know till you get to that point. But for me, I think it will still continue to hold up because the atmosphere that this movie has is very much in my like it's what I want. So I'm very excited to go back and check the Pale Blue Eye out again. So I felt very comfortable at an 88.
Yeah, and this would have been perfect for a it would have been too soon for us to actually do it, but for anyone to rewatch this during the hashtag spooky season. Because it's
Yes.
I mean, you mentioned the setting. That's what hit home most to me was that setting in that kind of like upstate New York, Hudson Valley at the Army West Point Academy there.
Yeah.
All very cool, like very spooky stuff there. So I love the time era. I love the location of it. Um, didn't necessarily I like the twist at the end, but it wasn't a spectacular movie, but it was a solid movie for me.
Mhm.
But I'm with you. I think the rewatch would be probably improved just for that reason because it's kind of like a new movie, knowing
Yeah.
what you know.
Yeah, not often that you have that, even with whodunits like that. But yeah, that is the full list of what we've gotten to this year.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of questions here. Top movie of the year. So both individual and combined. So I was off the top with Spider-Man Across the Universe with 96. I think that might be the same for you individually
Spider
as
Verse,
well.
yes, yeah,
What did I say?
universe,
Oh, yeah.
yes. How dare you?
Yeah. Yeah, 96, 97. So I think
Mhm.
not only both individually but combined, that's our favorite movie of the year.
Yeah. So, what is is Super Mario Brothers also our next on that list? No, it's I'm at a tie with Super Mario Brothers and Creed based on my scoring. Creed is your number two.
For just movies, it's Creed. But Last of Us is 95 too. So if just
Yeah.
things that we watched, Last of Us would be number 2,
Yeah.
Creed 3 would be 3. And then what Guardians 3 would be 4th.
Oh yeah, Guardians is my number two. I'm sorry because I gave that one a 93. So yeah, so it's Spider Verse and then Guardians. But yeah, pretty much like we're in the same ballpark for all this together. Mhm.
Let's see. The biggest gain of the year. Which movie had the biggest gain individually for me? Not much.
Cocaine Bear was yours.
That was my biggest fall.
Oh, geez. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
But yeah. Gen V with 2 point a 2 point gain. Um, and that probably could have gone a little bit higher too there, but that's probably it for me. That aged a little bit better. What about for you?
The Super Mario Brothers movie was a four
Yes.
point gain for me. I had two things that changed by 4 points, one positive, one negative. But this was definitely the biggest one, and that's also again moving from a B plus to the A minus territory, which we all know is life changing.
That is that's big. That's big. That could be the difference between a punishment and slipping by your parents.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
very true. Yeah.
The biggest loser, I guess, the one that lost the most points on the year, for me individually was Cocaine Bear with a 6 point drop from 85 to 79, followed by Ant-Man the Quantum Mania, Guardians 3, and Secret Invasion with a 3 point drop there. But although saying that, Guardians 3 is not that big of a drop. It's not that precipitous of a drop from a 91 to an 88.
Yeah, I mean,
It sounds bad when you say that.
yeah, but as much as the difference between A and B is A minus and B plus is huge, B minus and C plus are even more. Even larger
Absolutely.
difference.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, you have the largest individual dip, which is Cocaine Bear, but combined, the largest dip is Ant Man.
Hmm.
Quantumania because we both took off. We took off a combined 7. That was my largest dip individually at -4. And that makes sense. I mean, it was given how high we were coming in on it. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that one at all. I was actually surprised. Like, I'm not saying Cocaine Bear. Obviously, we had the same score. So I agree with your final score, but I think that I was surprised to see you gave it that much of a drop. But I'm not going to argue with it, obviously.
Yeah. I am who I am.
Yes, you are. That is
What's the
true.
most underrated movie of the year? And it doesn't have to be from this. Maybe something that you saw on your own that you feel like isn't getting enough love.
Oh, I didn't think about it through the lens of everything else. I do think you're spot on with what it was from the things that we reviewed. There's no
Yeah.
question.
Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves. Again, I'm not sure if this really killed the box office, but I think it got decent reviews. I think it did decently in the box office. But this is again a big IP with some big names. You got Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez is in there.
Mhm.
You got it was Justice Smith, I think,
I think it's
from
Justin Smith. Yeah.
yeah. So he's in. So you got some good names in there. But I'm just not sure. This kind of flew under the radar, I feel like, for a lot of people.
Yeah, you're right. And I can't. I'm trying to rack my brain to see if there's what other stuff that I saw like outside of this, because there's definitely some other things that I just can't think of what it would have been. So
Yeah.
that's my fault. But to me, it's unquestionably Dungeons and Dragons, because as much as it got a ton of like advertising and everything too, it still feels like, we're Mission Impossible. It also got a ton of it, but it seemed like people
Hmm.
responded to it in some capacity. There was so much with the Flash, and obviously Spider-Verse doesn't really need to be advertised. And I'm just looking at as we go down that list, it's like, Dungeons and Dragons still got advertising. It still got plenty of it, but it still just feels like, no, this deserves like go. You should go see this. This deserves your attention if you are into high fantasy stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. Um, Most overrated movie of the year.
Um, Most overrated.
My
Ooh,
thought is Ant-Man, just because just based off our recent conversation about it, and just like thinking that it was going to be the next big directional shift of the MCU to kind of usher in whatever the next big thing is, right? So Kang or whoever.
hmm.
And it just didn't. I don't think it lived up to it for me.
I think the Flash probably gets my nod,
Oh,
because
okay.
when you have some people saying it's the
Sure.
best comic book movie of all time, it's like I don't know how. Like, I don't think there's a better way to like ruin your credibility when talking about this kind of stuff. It's just,
That's a good point. I won't argue that at all. I think either one of those could be good choices there. The Flash might be the better of the two.
it
Uh,
can be your favorite of all time. Like, no, anything
mhm.
can be someone's favorite of all time. That's your choice. But like from an objective standpoint, that's a that's like an
Yeah,
odd claim to make.
it's tough to sell there too, especially when you got like Tom Cruise
Yeah.
saying that and everything. Yeah. Who lost the year, Nick? Who lost the year?
Well, I mean, I think you look at where things started for him. I mean, and obviously there's a lot going on with it, but the whole Jonathan Majors thing, like he started off on this tremendous high, and then it's like, no, he's done. And obviously, like there's a lot going on there still.
Yeah, and there's been that court case is ongoing
Hmm.
right now, so it's like in the middle of it right now. And I think there's been people on Twitter who have been kind of giving the play-by-play updates of everything.
Hmm.
And it feels like there was some video that just came out, maybe yesterday as a crow
Oh.
flies, of surveillance footage from the night and incident in question there. And apparently it shows him like running out of a car, so like trying to get away from the situation. I don't know, and
Hmm.
people are saying that that's supposedly good for him.
Oh.
I don't know the full context of everything, so I haven't been following it that much. But that seems to be, at least from what I've seen on Twitter, the opinion of people is that this might work out in his favor. He might get off.
The thing, excuse me, the thing that I saw was the last thing was the text message talk, and that was
Mhm.
not that was on the opposite end of the
Oh
spectrum.
yeah. See, yeah.
So
Who knows, right?
yeah, that's why it's this stuff so like obviously it's sensitive subject matter anyways, but when it's getting to the courts, it's like we saw with like the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. There's a lot. It's a lot of back and forth. Like one day it's like, oh, things are going like making Johnny
Right.
Depp look better, and things one day things are making Amber Heard look way worse. Or it's just like in the end, there's a lot that didn't go that was bad for both of them there, and I don't know, with this, it's feeling like it's not feeling like it's that, but it's feeling like Jonathan Majors like did some stuff, and it's just
Well, I hope he didn't poop in his girlfriend's bed,
oh,
like Amber Heard.
oh yeah, yeah, that's right. I never heard that. That's Jonathan Majors did that. Wow, but yeah, but when we talk
Maybe
about
that'll come out. I don't know. Maybe that'll be the big shift, the big
what
reveal.
was that you missed out on like a possible pun there with a shift and shit.
Oh, there we go.
But for who lost the year, I mean, like for nobody, there's only one other person who started out the year as strong as him.
That's
And
true. That's
yeah,
true. He had a lot. He had the most to lose at that point. He was on top of the entertainment world for at the start of 2023. That's for sure. My only other nominees, Ezra Miller, had a pretty rough year. Although not really, he still got paid. He didn't get taken out of the movie. The movie got released. Right, he's not in jail, so like he didn't really lose the year. But as far as his like public perception, that
yeah.
was a big loser, and he definitely did kill the movie in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
But the other one is Marvel and MCU overall. When you talk about the properties that have come out, the stories or hit pieces, or however you want to describe it, that have come out in the last few months here, detailing the quote unquote downfall of the MCU. Marvel fatigue is something that's kind of become into the forefront of everyone's mind. So that's also something that I think that more people have accepted or at least entertained the idea of than like a year ago or whenever that term first kind of got coined. So I think this has been a tough year for Marvel. But maybe it's Jonathan Majors.
Yeah, well, but the thing is that Marvel kind of gets you can loop in him into the Marvel, like all the stuff they have
Sure.
going on. So
Yeah.
it's a either six one way, half dozen another. Is that the
Yep.
saying? But he like I it's even if you liked the stuff that Marvel came out with this year, like there's no question that there's so much negativity surrounding it because of how people are feeling. Again, it's like goes back to what we're talking about with like the comics themselves. Like there's a lot of that now in this space, and then there's also flaws. So it's just there's a lot going on. Definitely for a lot where they've had a lot of W's over the years. This year was definitely an L. There's no two ways about it.
All right. Now, who do you think won the year? I'll give you my honorable mention.
Yeah, please do.
Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt winning the year here. Super Mario Brothers, Guardians 3, stars of two of the biggest blockbusters of the year. Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I think we're also in agreement on who won it.
Yeah, it's Pedro Pascal, right? Because he had the Mandalorian season 3.
Yep.
He had The Last of Us, which was a huge hit here. Is there something else that I'm missing?
Well, there was the Mr. Fantastic news that he
Right.
has as
Yeah, with
well.
that as well. But was there another movie, another project that he was in?
If there was, I'm blanking on it.
The Nick Cage one was last year, right? That wasn't in the
I,
calendar year.
I believe so. I believe so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know I watched that. I'm pretty sure I watched that this year. I'm not sure, but either way, it was definitely a win for him because just he had those two big things, and then the Mr. Fantastic news like is huge. And even if like that kind of died down, like where it's like he is Mr. Fantastic and nothing's been finalized, but if he gets it, like that's a huge career move for him. And if he doesn't, I'm sure there's another way he can get integrated into the MCU. It's the fact that they're talking to him. He's been on fire for a while now, and this is a big year for him.
And this has been on our radar. I remember back in, it must have been March or February, when we were having this discussion, whether it's the year of Jonathan Majors or Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, 100%. It's and it's obviously like that kind of just bared itself out there.
Yeah. Just time told on that one.
Yeah, I will say another one that I think is like a subtle win, and not because they did a whole heck of a lot. They just had the one show, but like the Boys universe in general, I think I think Amazon in general, you could argue because you got more Invincible stuff as
Sure.
well.
Yeah.
But for the Boys, like where you see the MCU going in the wrong direction,
Yes.
this is the great time to be doing an awesome job with stuff like the Boys. So
Yeah,
I think that's
and
huge.
they almost didn't even have to do anything, right? Just
Yeah.
watch kind of Marvel and DC falter, and
Yep.
by proxy, they're already going up. By
Yeah.
like you said, having Gen V, having that strong trailer for season 4 there of the boys,
Yeah.
that's all bodes well. How about James Gunn?
Hmm.
James Gunn get a little honorable mention love there,
Maybe. That's
taking over the DC.
Yep.
He closed Guardians 3, which was considered by many to be the best Marvel movie of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
No,
I think it's.
no.
I think that is a very fair case. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, all right, but it's Pedro Pascal though.
Yeah, everyone knows.
Everyone, his Q rating is through the roof right now.
100%. And I mean, like Pedro Pascal again, like not somebody I ever would have thought for Mr. Fantastic, but it's like he's done so good with everything else.
Right, I
Give him a
can't
shot.
hate it. Right, yeah, it's not who I would have selected,
Mhm.
but you can't be worried about the job that he's going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that does it here. The 2023 year in